All right. Good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast. Good morning to those of you on the, well, I guess, gosh, it is afternoon, as a matter of fact, nearly here on the West Coast as well. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, also co creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. And thanks so much for joining us. As you know, we are live here at CES 2024 edition here in Vegas. And there are a lot of goings on here at CES. If you are a tech enthusiast of all the various things that are on tap across various industries. And today I have a special guest on tap for you guys. They are a guest moderator talking on the subject of AI. It is my pleasure to welcome Noelle Russell. Noelle, how are you?
Oh, great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, I have to ask, well, first and foremost, before we dive into AI, can you tell me, how has your CES experience been thus far?
It's fantastic. I love this. It's actually when I first got here, I met three people I hadn't seen in about a year and a half. Maybe one of them was before COVID. I was like, it's like a family reunion. So I remember my first CS, I was running around just trying to get Alexa devices to work at different, and that was 10 years ago. So it's really cool to see some familiar faces and, of course, meet lots of new people.
All right, excellent, excellent. So to dive into AI, I feel like AI has had an interesting 2023. If anyone, unless anyone's been living under a rock, they'll know that AI was a huge talking point with the strike, of course, the actor strike and the writer strike.
Yes.
And I know one talking point that you had in your panel was just that idea of responsibility versus irresponsibility. So can you talk a bit about that? Where for some folks that may be not as well versed, you have those who are casual, when it comes to their knowledge of AI versus those who are more knowledgeable. That's the immediate thing that comes to mind is, oh yeah, what happened, with the strike and how it prevented all these things and all these horrible things. But as we know, it can also be used responsibly and be used effectively. So can you shed further light on that?
Absolutely. I remember actually I was in DC walking with my husband in the monument area,
Yes.
and a guy on a bicycle, and I was wearing a shirt just like this, and he yells out, "It's gonna kill us all!" And I was like, "Oh, I have some work to do."
Right, 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 right.
And it's very similar. Like people have, it's easy to be afraid. It's easy to be worried. And but what I've found, at least in my world, is that there's so much opportunity. And even for artists, creators, for many years, I've been talking about how you can use AI as a creator to remove the drudgery.
Yes.
There's so much nonsense that we do as creators to
Yeah.
build something
Yes.
that we cry tears of joy when we find out that there's an AI model that can do that
Yes.
for us. We don't want it to write our stuff, build up, create our music, but we don't mind so much if it's going to generate our emails and send out our marketing campaigns.
Right,
So
right,
there,
right.
there is a right balance, and I think the biggest part of that is that it's responsible use is about setting that intention. Where does that symbiotic relationship start and end? And we as humans, we make that decision. We're
Exactly.
not victims of that. Like we get to choose how we use this technology. And what I found is creators are even more beneficial. They're able to build more, create more as a result of this technology as opposed to the alternative.
Awesome, awesome. Now, one talking point that you or example that you gave in your panel was just the idea of being able to reduce tickets. And, in speaking of the contents of like content creation, one thing that immediately comes to mind is thinking of uh, replying to emails and comments that you get, from your audience base. And, as you said, that responsibility, irresponsibility piece, yeah, the technology is there to be able to have, an automated reply. But at the same time, you want to be able to have, a personalized reply that still allows you to be succinct and to be, what's the word that I want to use is be efficient in terms of that time management piece. Because just as you said, there's so much
Yes.
that a lot of people kind of take for granted that deals with that content creation piece from the pre-production part of it, the production part of it. We were just talking about it a moment ago, the post-production part of it. So, in speaking to that, going forward, are there a couple of things that you still see on the horizon that you are um, uh, hoping that is still something that we have going versus something that is still currently an issue now.
Absolutely. So one of the things I'll maybe make it really easy.
Yes, yes,
One thing that I realize most people don't know and don't do is that when you're leveraging a model, let's say it's good old fashioned chat GPT,
yes,
that there is an opportunity for you to train that model on who you are and how you think. If you go into it's called custom instructions.
sure,
So I
sure.
provide these custom instructions and I tell you, here's the book I'm writing, here are the leadership principles I have, here's my core values as a human, here's my mission in life. And now when it generates content for me, it uses that as a foundation for all the content. Same thing can happen with art, curation. It's a co-creation process. And that's why I mentioned the word symbiotic, because you have to realize you're going to engage with this technology, but it's only as good as you decide to train it. Something I also said today was, models and AI is never broken. It's just untrained. So whenever you look at something and go, that's not the way I want it, really the burden's on you to fix it. Like,
Yes,
you own the creation of this model, you own the training of it, it's just like raising a child. Like, you own the outcome.
exactly.
And most people would rather just say, oh, it's making bad choices. Oh, it generated something wrong, and walk away and be like, it's broken.
I can do yeah, right, right, right.
But the burden's on us to actually be like, no, as a creator, I can guide this model to be the best assistant to you. And that's what I do today. Most of my content is assisted. Now, with the responsible use side, attribution is key. You want to normalize that you use this technology to help you with marketing. Why wouldn't you, right? What harm is there? But one of the reasons why I love custom instructions is that it gives you the ability to personalize your voice so that you don't create that distance that a typical chatbot would do, right? How can I help you? Like, it doesn't sound anything like you. It doesn't even sound like someone you'd hire, right? But at least now you can create your brand voice, what we call sonic branding.
Yes,
Right? You can build that into this technology so that it serves you and serves your customers. It's an extension of who you are. And in my world, I don't have enough time in the day. I have 6 kids,
yeah,
right? Like,
yeah,
I don't have enough time in the day to do all the things.
yes,
So I heavily rely on technology. But what it allows me to do is, as an individual contributor, I can do way more now. I don't need to hire 6 people. I can do it with me and 6 agents that I built and trained, right? Not real people agents, but technology agents,
yes,
chat agents.
yes.
That is a huge opportunity for those of us who are sitting between trying to build something from scratch.
Day one and
Entrepreneurs,
day two, right?
day one and day two, exactly. The beginning of that journey, we now can get way further and actually start making money on something without having to, really suffer. Most of us, I call them the golden handcuffs. We're in a job and we want to quit and do our own thing, but we can't figure out how to make that income, the same.
Right, 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 right,
I'll
right,
never
right.
make as much as I make in my job now. With the aid of AI, you can actually build in systems to generate revenue, create sales funnels, email people, email targeted messaging.
Yes, yeah,
Things that you had
yeah,
to hire a specialist to do last
yes.
year, but
Mm-hmm.
now it's at your fingertips. So it's really more, how do you sit back and use this to make your dreams come true? Don't use it as an excuse to not have your dreams become reality.
Sure. And, in speaking to that, as you said, getting back to that responsibility piece, can you also share, what that looks like in the context of, just as you said, of having that digital agent versus the physical agent, um, how that correlates into having providing that workforce, or providing that know-how to someone physical versus digital, where you want to still have that convenience, right, of having, that digital agent, but is that taking away from the actual person who could be generating a living, from that, in that role?
Yes.
So can you talk a bit about that? Because yes, there is convenience, but you want to also be responsible in providing, that role and that job for someone.
That's right. And I think so. I work with some of the largest brands in the world. And one of the things, even I think a good thing to know, is that CEOs are even thinking to themselves, I can't implement AI that's going to unemploy a bunch of people.
Yes.
Those people are my customers.
Yes.
So I can't unemploy an entire workforce.
Sure.
But on the other side, so that's the good news, is that CEOs are conscious about, like, hey, we need to be careful with how we use
What we're
this
doing here,
technology.
yes.
But on the other side, what we've also found is that this AI, as I mentioned before, has to be trained. And domain expertise is a human thing. We know how a customer talks to us. We know what type of emails we get, what kind of tickets we get, what kind of creations we want. we're the ones that own the instructions. And so we'll always need humans to do that. Accuracy. What is truth? I always tell people when you're building an AI model, there's two things it doesn't do. The first thing is it doesn't understand truth. You tell it what truth is. The second thing is it doesn't understand humanity. It doesn't know black, brown, woman, male.
Right.
It doesn't know any of that. So you have to tell it this is what's important. You have to tell
Right.
it what
That
neurodiversity
that
is.
value system,
Yes,
sure.
and that yes, exactly. And those core values or that value system, it's a human thing. And your models will not work well without either of those. And then the final piece that everyone who's using AI has to think about is security. Like this technology is going to be able to be used to help you, but it also, of course, can be used by bad actors to hurt you.
Yes.
And so be aware that everything you see today, you should be looking at and being like, yeah, that's probably not real. That should be the default focus. It's probably junk. And then we're going to see really great stuff happen with blockchain and content stamping. So as a creator, I'll be able to stamp my content in like an Adobe Firefly and be like, this is authentic. And if anyone goes and creates a fictitious version or synthesized version, that stamp will no longer exist and they'll know it's fake. Here's the challenge though. People don't care about truth though. I do. I do.
Yes.
But when it comes down to it, right? Like we actually have to, it's almost like a human thing we need to do. We need to create better humans
Yeah.
so that we can use this technology in a better way.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, lastly, because this is always fun, thinking outside of work and your commitments, right? Of course, we're in Vegas. Like Vegas is, one of a kind place to have any venue. So, uh, do you have designated things that you are planning on hitting or doing while you're here? Outside of obviously, your work commitments
Of
that you're
course.
planning on doing, and if so, what are they are? If you like to share.
Yeah, so of course my husband is at home, so
Okay.
I'm sure I'm like, hey, I'm not doing nothing. I'm gonna be in the hotel room. I'm gonna be like eating. But yeah, popcorn. But it's funny. So I come here every single year for different events like AWS reInvent and Microsoft and all these different technical conferences. And one thing that I always do is I eat at a different restaurant every time, but I always eat at Noodles, which is in, I think it's here in Venetian.
Okay.
But anyway, it's a noodle. It's not phenomenal. Maybe it is, but it's more like sentimental.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
whenever you sit in any of these restaurants that are on Restaurant Row in the Venetian,
Uh-huh.
and you wear a red jacket with something that says "I heard AI," people will fly by and say hi.
Nice.
So I don't have to. I will tell you, I'm an introvert, right? I'm a little bit like I don't like to go into networking and like talk small talk. So I just sit at these.
I could not tell. No one would be able to tell that you're introvert. But
It's only
yes,
because it's one
continue.
on one.
But continue.
Yeah, but if you put me in a room full of people, I'm like, I'd rather sit. Unless I'm on stage. But anyway, but I sit at this restaurant, and people will just come up one by one and be like, "Oh my gosh, Noelle, I saw you speak today," or "Oh my gosh," and then let's sit down and I can have a conversation. And there's no other place in Vegas that I can really do that and kind of feel safe about doing so.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
And so I love it, especially in this when everyone's here to learn and grow and dream. I mean, it's literally like the vision of CES. It's like, how do we dream bigger
Yeah.
and use technology to bring those dreams to reality? And being an early member of Amazon Alexa, I've watched this happen. I've watched this go from, man, that'd be cool if people talk to this, to everyone knows what that is now.
Yeah.
It's a household name. Like, you don't get
It
to do
must
that
be
every day.
surreal. It
And
must
so
be surreal.
today, we're gonna find things at CES that 10 years from now will be a household
You're like,
name.
oh yeah, I remember
Yeah,
that,
and you don't
man.
even
Yeah, I
know.
remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really cool. So I love that part. But yeah, so I will probably go over to Viv now.
Okay.
We have one in Miami, so I like to like say hello to my friends.
All right. All right. Cool. 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 Well, Noel, thank you so much
So
for your
fun.
time. There you guys have it. Here I am again at 2024 CES. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you soon. Later.